All right. Thanks for joining last minute. And today we're going to be covering mostly the updates from 2.180, which is the update in the most recent update in June. But I'm also going to touch on a few of the updates from the two previous releases as well, just because, of course, they do kind of all fit together. So we're just going to jump in to share screen here. So I'm just going to quickly touch on 2.178 and just making sure everybody knows that the first name and last name have been now split on the export from the Trip CRM. It's just one of those things that should have been done a long time ago. So we've just got that in. Basically, it means now you'll have the full name and the first name and the last name all split out into separate columns. So you can work with those separately. So yeah, should just be a nice little win there. And a couple of other little enhancements in here, but nothing I want to spend too much time on. So I'm just going to jump to 179, which was released June 6th. And this is more of a preview for folks that didn't sponsor this feature. So this is what we're calling a booking add-on feature. So the primary use case for it is actually travel insurance. And so that's the example that we're using here. And that's what our sponsor used it for. And so basically you're able to provide multiple options, and then your customer will be required, let's just pick one of the plans here. Your customer will be actually required to pick one. So this is different from an add-on, where an add-on is like either it's on, it's added, or it's not added. But if it's a booking add-on, it can only be selected when they book, and they have to pick one of the options, and they have to pay for that option when they book. So in that case, just going to let Nikki into the room here. So this is a really important distinction, and this can be really helpful for travel insurance, for airport transfers. Maybe if you're selling flights and you need them to pick like which flight options they want added on. And if you want to make it optional, you just merely have to give them a decline option. So just making that as one of the options there. Welcome, Nikki. All right, so
just to make sure I understand that, Jen, real quick. So that is they must pay now with that, correct?
That's right. So yeah, you can see that here. So if I've include the recommended travel insurance is the demo example I have here, and then it'll say travel insurance option that they've selected is include recommended travel insurance. That's $100. They're paying the deposit of $360. But they also have to pay that travel insurance right now. And that's why travel insurance is the primary use case for this, because usually you have to pay for it at the time of booking in order for that policy to come into effect. Now, we understand that not everyone can offer travel insurance this way. Most of our clients are in an affiliate relationship, and you link it off as part of a task because you don't want to take the money for the travel insurance, right? But some of our clients do sort of group travel insurance policies, in which case they can offer it as an add-on. Like if you want to buy into the group policy, it's an extra $100 or it's an extra $150, or you can choose to decline, and then there'll be terms and conditions that they accept down here. So I understand I'm declining the insurance add-on option. So you can put terms and conditions in there to say, okay, you've chosen not to take what we are offering you. That means it's your responsibility to get the insurance that you need. So things like that. It's a very powerful feature, but it's in early release, and it'll be coming out more broadly in September. So just letting you guys know that that's coming, and that's kind of the direction that we're going with, enhancing the way that you work with add-ons so that you can have this kind of choice between and then the ability to force them to pay at the moment that it is selected, which I know has been quite important for a few customers who have requested this.
Okay.
Any other questions on that one?
Yeah, can I throw a little bit of a how I'm going to break this for you?
Of course. That's why we love having you on these calls, Matt.
Like right now, my use case for this would not be travel insurance because we're one of those affiliates. However,
with us.
What I keep doing here is using this as a negative for a land-only trip.
Yes, you could absolutely do that. So
okay, perfect. That's what I was, because
yeah, I mean it's a question of how you would. So yeah, it would be interesting to see if you did land only as a negative, or if you would do it As an ad, no, okay, so the way you design them, you want it to be like default to including,
Correct, but if you want a land-only trip, this is what you'll take. Click here, take
yeah,
it off, then at the bottom, I understand I have to book my own flights.
right, yeah, that's a great example. I love that. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So then the decline would actually be a negative amount instead of a zero, right?
Right. Yep.
And so then actually you're in, flights included would be $0, and
Right.
that'd be the default. And then your decline would be flights not included or land only.
Negative
Yeah.
500 or whatever.
Negative $500 or something like that. Yeah, brilliant. So
Cool.
this is why we're calling the feature a booking add-on. But then we're recognizing that customers will use it specifically either for travel insurance or for flights or for transfers. Like everybody's going to sort of have that thing that is really important on the checkout, like on the booking flow that they need to prompt for. And of course, you'll set this up in your template and then you'll copy them. So that becomes sort of just part of your standards. And we can configure this label. So instead of it saying booking add-on for you, Matt, it would say land only package choice or something like that, so that your team also knows what this is on the back end. So that's coming later this year. But something that is already out for enterprise customers using traveler category is the ability to select traveler on checkout, or sorry, allow the traveler to select their category on checkout. So this is really powerful when you combine it with forms that are tailored for the different people. So if you need to collect data from a teacher that's different from data from a student, or different between like a group leader needs to fill out this information and just a general passenger, or maybe like the primary person who's booking versus a spouse. So maybe you're doing an event and the primary person's participating in the event, so you need to know their bicycle size because they're cycling in an event, but their spouse, you just need to know less information from them. So you can give people different forms based on their traveler category, and you can have them choose their category on checkout. And coming next release in 2 weeks, you'll actually be able to link that to a package. So if they pick a particular package, it will automatically determine that they are a particular category and therefore show them the correct form based on the package and the linked category for that. So who on this call is using traveler categories?
Not us.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, so it's a really powerful thing. And so the example here is like teacher, student, but it can be any categories that you need. And we do have some people who use it for like guide versus traveler, so that you can actually show different things on the itinerary to the guide versus the people that are going on the trip. So you can have more detailed itineraries for the guides and more high level summarized itineraries for the travelers. So yeah, if you're on an enterprise plan, or I think also available on Grow, you get 2 traveler categories. Definitely check out that feature and explore to see if it's something you can work into your business. So checkout flow now also warns about an existing booking. So basically, if I put my email address in and that email address is already booked onto this trip from the checkout flow, it used to just let you book again. And you can still book again with the same email address, like in case you're making a booking for somebody else but on your email address. But it's going to now warn you to just say, hey, you've already got a booking, maybe you want to go get it instead. And so directing them to go get their existing booking rather than making another one. So that should just sort of reduce any duplicate bookings. And then the checkout flow is also now prompting for login if you have Save Card enabled. Also, if you have platform white label, but I think there's only a few clients that have that. So we'll talk about the Save Card example. And I think a number of you probably have this turned on. Shar, I think you guys aren't on Stripe, so you probably wouldn't have this one. No,
we're authorized on that.
So you don't need to worry about this, but Matt, you'll see there's a new bar that's appearing now if you have saved card enabled, prompting them to log in. And if they are already logged in, it'll say whether or not they've already registered for the trip. So if they're logged in, it'll tell them and it'll actually take them to their trip. So if they're logged in, they'll be able to jump straight to their trip. And then if the traveler is logged in but doesn't have a registration, it just tells them, you know, hey, you're logged in, and then it just makes it easier to kind of use your save card and stuff like that. So it's just a little bit of an enhancement to that flow. That should all just be a really smooth experience for your travelers, but very keen for any feedback if you have customers that are finding that confusing at all. But hopefully it's just supporting them to get where they need to go. So now, the highlight of today's conversation, full registration forms for all travelers. So previously, we only showed the 4 basic registration fields if you had extra travelers in your booking. And now we are actually going to show you the, so this is an example of one where it's like, okay, you've got member 1 and member 2 registered. And just a reminder that you can actually customize this label. So if you don't know how to do that, let me know and I'll send you an article on that later. It's linked from the release notes as well. But then you can also now customize these forms. So if we jump into the form and we go into our profile and registration form. So one of the easiest examples is just to edit one of the existing ones and make it required on registration and save that. And now if we jump back here, previously that would just show date of birth for just the first person. And now it will automatically collect that information for the second person as well. So if you have a situation where you actually don't want this new capability, so to Matt's question, how do I roll this out across 100 existing trips? You're done already. So yay. No extra work. If your form has already been set to show on registration, then that form now appears for your secondary people.
Okay.
I think I just made Matt's Friday.
That could seriously help me a lot. So, thank you.
So of course, there may be a situation where you don't actually want to collect all that data. And so then what I would suggest is don't make that shown on registration. So if it's not something that's essential that you collect on registration from both people or all people, then just make it a required field, but take it off the registration. And then it'll prompt them to complete that form after they complete the registration. And then they will each get separate emails to complete that form. So strongly recommend making it required, but not on registration, because that's what will make it something that they get reminded to kind of follow up and complete later. So if there are cases where you had a long form for the primary person, but you don't like that that's now showing for the secondary person, I would come in and change them to be like this, required, but not collected on registration. Any questions or comments on that change?
Jen, I noticed date of birth is always when a person is registering for a trip anyway, it is out there. But again, it's an optional field. So in this case, if we wanted to collect that data and make it required, then we'd have to create a form to do that then. Is that what you're saying?
You just have to edit the registration form. So I don't know if you guys have migrated fully over to the profile and registration form. Because you guys did onboard before that feature was around. So might want to take a look at that. But if you have that one and it's on in your account, so all you have to do is make a profile and registration form, and it will default to these fields, and then you can come in here, and what I'm showing you is the ability to kind of control all of that. So yeah, you can make date of birth required, and you can see here that we do date of birth in this way so that it's easier. It's not a date picker. You can actually just, pick the years instead of having to scroll through a calendar. So we've specifically made our date of birth field not a date picker interface, which is a much better experience.
Okay.
Passport dates as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. That does need to get updated. One little hot tip I'm going to give you, because this rolled out kind of quietly in this form.
Feature.
Oh yeah, so you can basically default it to, so if United States is mostly who you're selling to, go in and edit your phone number field and make the default the US. Now they can still change it, but it means that should mean a second. Oh, I didn't save it. Haha. Just remember to save your forms. it will just default to +1. Now they can click in and pick another one if they need to, but that just saves that annoying thing, especially on a mobile phone. For 90 some odd of your percent of your customers. So it's a little tiny thing that can have a huge positive impact on the customer experience there. So that's mostly what I wanted to show you guys. And of course, this is the default form. You can add more fields to that form. So you can ask for dietary requirements. And actually, I recommend doing a sort of select only one value approach when you're doing dietary requirements, but
yeah.
Do what you need to do. So we'll just do a single line here for the moment. And then if you do that on registration, you don't have to make it required as well. So again, you can collect it on registration optionally and not make it required, or make it required. And then I'm gonna save that. And so, yeah, you can make these forms quite large. Now, we originally kind of tried to keep people from making really large registration forms, but we understand that data collection can be such a challenge. So we've been enhancing the way that you collect data on registration. So now you can make any of these fields available on registration, and you can also add headings. So if you are actually making a really complicated form and it's like emergency contact info, you can choose to show that heading on the registration form and actually break it up. So now if you only have 6 fields, you probably don't need headings and instructions. But if you have 15 fields, you might want to start using the sort of ability to kind of group fields together by putting in a heading. And then you can add a field that is emergency contact, full name, and then maybe a phone number. Yeah, phone number. Clicked on registration. So now I've kind of created like a section on my form, right? So now I've got emergency contact info, and then I have these 2 fields, right? So that can be nice if you're really getting into using this functionality and you start putting lots and lots of fields. And then if people are like, well, I don't know what emergency contact info means, you can actually put instructions in there as well. So you can add in instructions, the name of the person not traveling with you to be contacted, blah, blah, blah. And then save that. Oops, actually, I put that in the wrong place. Sorry, that should go up, up. There. So now there's instructions under the heading, right? So, again, this is kind of as you get more sophisticated and you get feedback from people, but we do tend to suggest, keeping things as uncluttered as possible. But I've also noticed sometimes people put really long field names when actually maybe they just need instructions. So sometimes it's like your full name as it is on your passport is the field name. Now, maybe that's what you need to do, but you can also definitely take advantage of having this be, your legal full name. And then this can say, this needs to be as shown on your passport, things like that. Any other questions on what I've just shown?
No, it's interesting.
Yeah, cool. All right. So yeah, definitely, Shara, if you haven't already explored that, make sure that you're taking advantage of the profile and registration form to be able to create these custom forms.
And where would I find that at?
Yeah, it's just under manage tasks and custom forms. When when you go in and you change the required response type, you're just going to pick profile registration form there. And so the thing I touched on at the beginning was the ability to change registration forms based on your categories. So here's an example, like you can have your travelers complete this form, but probably wouldn't have your guides registering on. But if you had the adult child distinction is probably the most obvious one where you'd want to have two different forms. So the information you're collecting from the adults is probably different than when you're collecting information from an adult for a child, right? Because like the language of that form will be slightly different. So this is the place where you can actually choose to show this form separately based on category. Now, previously that didn't make sense because we didn't let you choose the category on registration, but now that is something that's becoming available. So it's a advanced feature, and it's available 2 categories on Grow, and then I think it's 5 categories on Enterprise. So if you're interested in that, definitely reach out and we'll help you understand
Jen,
that further.
I'm looking at my in YouLi on one of my trips under tasks. And you're saying, where is that supposed to be at? Where I can select?
So you're
that?
just
'Cause I
going to
don't
click
see it.
Add Task.
Oh, under
and
add
then-
task. Okay, I
Yeah,
got it.
and then you can
That's-
pick Profile and Registration Form. And then it automatically appears here. So it defaults to the same thing that you already have.
Oh, okay, I get it now. I
But
see it.
now you can edit it, right? Now you can come in and change your default country
Okay.
code and the phone number. You can make date of birth required.
Gotcha. Okay,
Right,
cool.
so you can edit all of that. You can even move things around. We actually have people who like put email as the first field, for example, so you can collect email first.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you can move all those fields around. That's all stuff that we've done over the
Oh,
over
good.
the
I'll go
past
in and check
year.
that out.
Is the
Yeah.
profile registration form global, Jen? So if I change it in one place, it changes everywhere, right?
No, it is a per trip thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you want to change on your templates so that you're sort of going forward with that. Certainly if you're doing any kind of like massive change and you want to do a kind of a bit of a data migration, you can reach out. We can see if we can support you on that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, they are on a per trip basis. Just for, and once you start taking registrations on the trip, you cannot change those. That's why they're not global, because once you've sort of started, we kind of lock that data structure in for that trip.
Got it.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the big change is that now that's for all travelers, not just the second one, but like if you're booking for 4 people at once, it'll have 4 registration forms. And that has just turned on across the board. We've made the decision that this was something that didn't make sense to sort of to configure, and we wanted to make it easy for people to roll it out. So we just made it available immediately. So that just happened this week. The other thing that is in the pipeline and actually will be general availability next month, so in July, is the ability to do dynamic installments. So this is a really powerful capability. So if you have a trip for $5,500 and a $500 deposit, and it's 11 months out and they book it, if you set it up this way, if you set up 10 installments, it'll automatically calculate that since they paid $500, they owe $5,000. So we're going to divide that by 10, and we're going to charge them $500 for each of those installments. The platform will do that automatically in terms of that calculation. So if this number changes or this number changes, we will automatically change that number. But then you've got the trip, you launch the trip early, a couple of people book in early, but then really people start booking in 6 months in advance. Well, you don't want to have an installment from January for them to pay because they're booking in July, right? So when they come to the page, they're actually going to just see pay your deposit, and then they're going to see, oh, and then I will pay 5 installments of $1,000 each. And that will happen automatically, depending on when they are going to book. So we will automatically determine how many of the installments that you set up are still to be paid. And if they haven't booked yet, we only show them the ones that are in the future. And we recalculate the amount that they're going to owe based on how much time they have left. But this person, sorry?
No, I was going to say, that's something I think we've been waiting on too. But how would that work when we're setting up a trip and we already preset our initial deposit, second,
Yep.
third, and fourth? How would that be affected with this dynamic installment? We are, because a lot of times we have to set up our dates based on when we have to pay the hotels.
Absolutely. So you still set your dates.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just make sure. Yeah, so this is a trip that's in dynamic installment mode. And so
Okay,
you still decide what your date is.
okay,
Like, okay,
yeah.
so I'm launching this trip now. So my date is the 17th for the next one. Right. And then I'm going to add another one that's going to be,
So it will
in-
adjust it though, depending on when they deposit, because that happens to us a lot. We start taking bookings
Mhm.
right after the trip, the first trip ends. But then we don't get a lot of our bookings until almost 6 months in. So a lot of people are like, holy crap, I got to pay all this money up, now.
That's right. Exactly. Yes. Right. So right now we do what are called catch-up payments. And
Mhm.
the example that I gave, they'd have to be paying half their trip as their deposit.
Right.
Whereas with this, it's like, no, you still just pay 500, but now your installments are larger than they would have been if you had booked
Correct.
6 months before.
Okay. All right.
So let me just update this one and I'll show you an example of this. So, oops, let me convert this back to public trip. So in this case, I've got an installment whose date has passed already. Now the deposits always due when, when they sort of load that trip up, right?
Mhm.
Oh, shoot, it's on the wrong style. Hold on a second. This one got moved around. Change that. Okay. So here you can see that my deposit is due today because
Mhm.
it's today and I'm looking at this page. And the first installment that I see is the 21st of August. Right. But as you saw when I set this up, I actually actually I moved it to the past. I put in one for May. And I said, okay, let's assume I launched this in April. And I said, okay, my first installment is due in May. But
Mhm.
now this person has come in and it's June already. So that one's gone. They
Mhm.
don't see that anymore. But you'll see that they still owe the same amount. It's not like
Gotcha.
it's not like they don't have to pay that amount. It's just that money then gets dynamically reallocated across the next installment and then the balance.
Yeah, I think that's already happening.
And
Okay.
then if I jump into somebody who has already booked in. So do I have anybody already booked in? Let me get somebody booked into this. So I'm going to record a manual payment and I'm going to set that back to April and say, okay, I got their deposit in April. Let's say. So now if I look at their invoice, they're going to owe the May installment because they booked in April.
Right.
Right. So it's, and that's overdue now.
Yeah.
So it's dynamic in the sense of like, it's dynamic based on the date that they booked.
Yeah.
But
That's
it
gonna
doesn't
be
mean
a
they
big
get to
help.
skip installments, right? And that was something that we did a bit of research on in terms of like, this doesn't just keep moving. Like
Right.
once you've booked in, you kind of agree to a payment plan. And so that's what we kind of hold you to. So in a way, it's a bit of a dynamic payment plan until you book in and then you've locked in your payment plan.
Yeah, because I know Sean will be happy because I'm always bugging him about this. Like, Sean, when are they gonna do this? So this is coming, is what you're saying.
Yeah, this is currently in testing with early
Okay.
adopters, and it will be rolled out for everybody in the next update. So so this will be available for all paid accounts in July.
Okay, perfect. That's something.
Yeah. Matt, did you have any questions on that one?
Nope, that one makes sense.
Do you think that you would use it as well?
We may on some trips. Yeah, we're starting to see, some more trips where those make sense.
Mm.
So I don't know if we'd use it every time, but we definitely would use it on those trips.
Yeah, we use it all the time, so that'll be great.
Yeah, and so let me just pop into one of these. So it'll be just like, it'll just be this. So when you go to start building your installment plans, you pick
will have one of
percentage
them.
fixed this new button will appear, which is dynamic. So if you already have trips that are live, you won't be able to migrate them unless nobody's made a payment yet. But for any new trips, you'll just be able to start them off as dynamic, and that'll run really smoothly.
Great. Won't help for March.
So,
but-
so that's coming next update. We also have a feature that's currently in testing, and we haven't decided when this is going to be generally available, but we're kind of checking to see how many people would be interested in itinerary priced packages. So this is the idea that you would actually build your package by including itinerary items that have prices associated with them. So this is, now the traveler just sees the final total. So if you put 3 itinerary items in the package, the traveler sees that it costs $3,000, but you know that that's actually because it was a $1,500 tour and a $600 flight and a, done my math wrong, and a $400 hotel, something like that. And that's how that added up to the 3,000. And if you take those in and out, the package prices will adjust. It also makes it really easy if you've actually got like multiple packages that overlap, but have slightly different inclusions. So like the land tour is always the same for the 5 packages, but this package uses this thing and this package uses this thing. And so each of them kind of draws on different itinerary items.
That would be good for like with cruises with pre and post hotels. I could see something like that.
So yeah, so then you could have your package actually be like with pre and with post. You mean?
Yeah, like
Yep.
we're working with our Croatia cruise with rock stars, and we can't set up our hotels yet because it's a 2026 cruise, but I'm thinking ahead where that would be when we finally pick those hotels, we could then add it as an itinerary price package, because they may take it if they want to be part of that hotel, or they may book their own thing, but at least we could get it and collect the money and they could see everything in place. I like it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Matt, do you think you would use this at all?
Yeah, I can see this for, a lot of our river cruises. We have offshore excursions that are additional prices.
That's exactly what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that would be very beneficial there. That way, want to add a castle tour, they want to add this, they want to add that.
Yeah.
They automatically adjust for them. I like it.
Mhm.
Takes it off the add-on and just puts it right into their itinerary so that we can keep our add-on small.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's an interesting one, because how many different add-ons, like how many options do they have in that case?
We might have 3 or 4 that I would add to the itinerary price package. But then when we say add-ons, we're talking things like, upgraded airfare, extensions on the trip, but an extension on the trip could move over to this itinerary price package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Future.
So that's interesting, because the current version of this puts all the power into the planner's hands. The traveler doesn't get to select anything other than the package. So it would be like the planner would say, you can pick it with pre or with post, and you would have so they would pick a package, and that would just include whatever itinerary items you specified for that package.
Mhm.
So it's interesting that you were thinking, oh, actually, that they would get to pick like a la carte, and have that adjust the pricing. So that's a different way of thinking about it. I'm just pondering if that makes sense with what we've done so far.
So I think maybe to help you answer that question, I'm not saying that this might be information. The way I see that this itinerary price packaging being used is that those would be things that they're adding onto their trip at the time of registration that they cannot remove without calling.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Where the add-ons right now that we have, they can jump in at any time and take stuff off.
That's right. That's
which
right.
is
Yeah.
Problematic for us.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point. I like where you're going with this, though, because
Yeah, especially if
one of
like
the-
we pay for a hotel and then
Back in.
they back
Right,
in.
exactly. Well, that's what we're dealing with, is we're dealing with like
Yeah.
the one that we see all the time is that people will go in there and we have, we have an add-on for, I don't know, a mailing fee or whatever, like anything simple, something that they need to have. But we want
Yeah.
to show on the invoice, but now they go out and they take it off, then we put it back on, they take it off, we put it back on, they take it off.
Yeah. And that's actually, so that's something that has been identified actually based on our recent campaign to make it so that people have to pay for add-ons immediately. And then once those are locked in, they wouldn't be able to take them out because they've sort of paid for them. And we had been trying to figure out how we were going to implement that, whether or not that would be like a modification of the add-on. But actually, you make a good point that perhaps it would be better in the context of these sort of itinerary price packages to kind of allow the traveler to kind of build it. So this is how the planner builds it. So you would go in, and when you're making an item, you would actually decide that it belongs in a package. So you can put different items in different packages. But I think what I'm hearing is if we could make it so that you could specify that these add-ons are sort of like part of a certain package, they'd be sort of like pre-selected with a package, and then once they book, they can't take them out, right?
Or at least it gives us the ability to say, okay, if you don't want that now, we could go refund you, but they just can't turn around and
they can't take it
themselves
off.
and take it off when we've already committed to something and they said they were in and now they're not. So they either lose their money or we make the decision that we want to offer a refund.
Yep. Yeah.
But then we would probably, if we refund it, we would need a little something there that we could click it off or take it off, I guess.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point, the being able to take it off. I don't think I have an example in here of that, but the ability to uncheck so today you can do that now, where if you set the due date of an item to the past, I don't have anybody on here at the moment, but if you set a due date of an item to the past, you guys know that you can, they can't take it off, but you can.
Right.
So Shar, I don't know if you're aware of this as well. So let's find somebody that has some books.
Does that work? Okay, wait. So does that work, Jen? If I did an add-on and I do the due date as today, as a day of registration, and I auto-select it, okay? Are you following me?
Yeah.
So I set a due date for an add-on to day of registration, and then I auto-select it. They register, they can't take it off, but it will still show up as an add-on, correct?
That's actually a good suggestion. We don't have the due date being relative, but maybe that is exactly what that needs to be. It's like, if the due date is,
that would solve a tremendous amount of headaches for us.
Right. So if the due date for add-ons is relative to booking, then you can make it, due on the day of booking, and then default to selected. And so then if they don't unselect it at the time of booking, then it's locked in because then they can't uncheck it.
But we still would have the power to on the back end.
Yes. Okay.
Sounds a little simpler in the coding.
Yeah. This is actually a much better way of thinking about this. So Shar and Nikki, I don't know if you're following completely there, but like if you were to set this to be the past, right? So January 2024, then anybody who's already opted into it's set and locked, they can't opt into it, but you can go and view as them and check or uncheck it as much as you like. So you can control their opt-in out regardless of the due date, but the due date applies to the customer so that they can't opt in and opt out relative to that. So if we made it possible for this to be relative to the booking date, then you could basically set it up to say that this is a choice they must make at the time of booking, and cannot change their minds once they've selected it. I like it. I think probably what we're gonna do is roll out the booking add-ons as well, but that one's a slightly different model because that one you have to pay for it at the time of checkout as well. And I'm guessing
Which
you
I
don't
would
always
use, I would
want to,
use both.
you would use both for different reasons. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
So you do need both. They are different use cases. Like sometimes you want to take full payment up front for the add-on, but sometimes you just want them to have selected it, committed to it. They can't back out, but they don't have to pay the full amount.
correct.
I get it. Okay. Excellent.
Right. We're
This
good
was
then.
really good.
Yeah.
The other thing that's coming next update is a new image uploader. So stay tuned for that. It'll just make it so that you can do some cropping and things like that. And I don't think anyone on the call is using PayPal, but we are rolling that safeguard out for PayPal as well. There's a number of other fixes and enhancements that have gone out, and I do encourage everybody to be sure and review those. They're at the bottom of all of our release notes, especially if you've been running into any kinds of issues. If you have reported an issue, we strive to tell you when your fix is out. So you should have received a notification if your item is in here, but always good to keep an eye out. And yeah, we really appreciate you guys giving us feedback and supporting us as we continuously improve.
Great. Well, thanks, Jen. This was helpful. And
Yeah,
we'll look
thank you.
forward to those. I'm going to look forward to that dynamic installment.
That'd be great.
So
Yeah.
and eventually
that's
I'll
a
figure
big
out how to
one.
put my damn camera on so everybody can see who I am. Although today I need my hair colored, so it would have been a good look.
Your computer knew, it's just
Yep.
helping you out.
Yeah. But you enjoy California. Well,
Thank
have a
you.
good weekend, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Bye, everybody.
Later, have a good one.